Hello and welcome to the last word on Spurs. We do hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Of course, your award-winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back. We might as well just stay online, to be honest with you, the way it is at the moment. I mean, just honestly, life as a Spurs fan, I don't know what I can say about it. We are back. We're joined by three fabulous returning guests to last word on Spurs. If you're listening to us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on X, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook too. And we do bring to you our first signing of this January window, confirmed, approved, and here we go. Timo Werner is a Tottenham Hotspur player. I know the mood of the signing is somewhat at the moment clouded by the situation around Radu Dragusin, who at the moment, I can't just say, I've just studied that name off air for about an hour, so I better bloody get the deal over the line. Well, we understand at the moment there is some real doubt as to whether he will be a Tottenham Hotspur player. A reminder, Spurs, of course, in action against Manchester United on Sunday, in desperate need of a defender, still searching for a defender, and they have to have that player registered, as I understand, by Friday lunchtime. We've had some genuine interest in Bryan Gil. We're discussing Eric Dyer's future at the football club and doing a general roundup where we stand during this transfer window. I'm joined by, look, a lot of them are regular returning guests to last word on Spurs. Back is Christina Zandes. Chris, busy time of a life of a Spurs fan. Are we ready for just a bit more drama in this window?
Can't wait. I'm ready for it. I can't wait for all the comments as well to see.
Oh, it's
no,
drama.
it should be all right. Let's go for it. It's early, isn't it?
One man I feel sorry for is Jar Wobble. We spent 2.5 hours trying to practice and rendition the name Radu Dragusin, only for Spurs to bottle that signing. Listen, we'll come on to that shortly. Back as well on last one on Spurs. We've got wonderful Patrick Tyrant in the house. Chatty Patty, love to be back on my end. Listen, big news with Tottenham at the moment going on. Obviously, one in, one potentially not in, and obviously lots going on, Pat. Just the life of Spurs in the transfer market, right?
It's January, man. This is it. It's all about the ups and downs, the highs and lows. Hopefully there'll be more ups than downs. Obviously, we've got some good news and a bit of we don't know what's going on. But yeah, we're here for it, man. We're doing business early, which is good. But yeah, we just hope the other one doesn't flop, because if that flops, it's going to be absolutely carnage on social media. I can see it. I can feel it bubbling. I can feel it. It's coming.
What?
So,
yeah. It's carnage now. We've already announced one, which is what is Spurs all over. Listen, making up our panel, absolutely delighted to bring him back on. Listen, always a pleasure when this man returns to the screen. He is part of the LWS family. We're going to have Mitch Fretton back. Mitch, love to have you on last word on Spurs. Can I just say, Mitch is smiling for our listeners on audio. So look, we have got one in the line. I think as Chris said off air, I think you've got to go back to 2012 for how early it's been since Spurs have got a January signing in this early into the window. Mitch, how are you? Love to see you back on the show.
I'm very well. You're making my cheeks burn with such an amazing introduction like that, Ricky, honestly. But yeah, it's what the January transfer window is about, isn't it? Absolute chaos for us. And at the end of the day, it's just nice to see us at least trying to do business earlier than the 31st of January. So one's over the line. Hopefully we get another one over the line this week, because we desperately need one going to the United game on Sunday. But who knows? It's never easy with Tottenham, and I'm sure there are more twists and turns to come in this Drăgușin deal, and whoever else we might go for if that does sort of fail to materialise. So I guess we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think, again, we know with the transfer market, anything can happen. And I'm sorry to sound like a broken record. In this period of the season, obviously now and when the summer and the winter's open, everyone, you want to sign everyone, you want to buy everyone, you loan everyone, you want to sell everyone. And that's what I think makes the window such a complex case, where it's difficult to really sometimes find rationale for what is happening out there in the market. Look, I am going to open up, if I can, Mitch, with you. Timo Werner has become Tottenham's first signing of this January transfer window. The German international joins Ange Postecoglou's side on loan for the remainder of the season from RB Leipzig, after seeing his pitch time decrease for the Bundesliga side. Now, as we understand, Spurs will have an option to make the switch permanent at the end of the current campaign for a fee we understand to be in the region of 15.5 million. He does bolster Postecoglou's attacking options as the club head in now to what is critically a few months left of the season as we look to target a Champions League spot. It's worth me pointing out this guy is capable of playing from the left. He does play through the middle as well, and as a central striker. His arrival comes at the ideal time, of course, with the fact Heung-min Son is away on international duty, And with that being the case, it proves really prominent to have what we hope to be a forward that can come in and hit the ground running. It is worth me saying it is the player's second spell in the capital after, of course, spending time at Chelsea between 2020 and 2022. And I've got to say, although, listen, he'll be remembered there not too fondly for his return in terms of goals, he did leave the club with a Champions League winners' medal after helping them beat Man City. But overall, his record there, 23 goals in 89 games, only scoring 2 in his last full team with RB Leipzig after finding himself really frozen out the team. But Postecoglou firmly believes he could be the man to help the attacker rediscover his golden touch ahead of the player looking to return to the Germany squad for the Euros in 2024. He could make his debut, of course, at Old Trafford to take on Manchester United in the Premier League at the weekend. Mitch, thoughts on the signing for you?
Yeah, I think the key point that comes from what you've just sort of said in your monologue there is that he's a player that Ange Postecoglou wanted. So, I mean, naturally, as people are with most signings, they're a little bit conflicted, especially when it's an ex-Chelsea bloke, a player a lot of people have seen with his time in the Premier League, someone that didn't necessarily live up to his reputation and the price tag that they obviously played for him. But I mean, I've done a video about this myself, and I can't help but get excited purely because it's an Ange signing, and for me, if there's a player that Ange wants to bring to the club, then I'm fully on the side of getting on board with it and sitting in the same boat as him. He's clearly seen something in I guess the analysis that him and the club and the scouts have done on Timo Werner. You know, the top tier journalists have come out today and said that, you know, there was a really extensive list, but Timo Werner sort of ticked more boxes than the rest of them. So there's clearly something that these guys at the highest level are seeing that perhaps us fans aren't particularly aware of or may have forgotten, because we do have to remember that the thing that got him noticed in the first place was that first stint at Leipzig, and he was absolutely electric. You got to think he was Leipzig's top scorer for 4 seasons in a row. He was absolutely incredible. He scored plenty of goals against us for Leipzig and Chelsea as well during that time. So I think for me, you just got to give him a chance. You got to wait and see. There's no point ever writing off a player before he stepped foot on the pitch in the shirt of his new club. You know, I've listened to his first interview, gone through all of the stuff on the club website, and you know, it all seems positive. He's made some really lovely comments about the club, the fact that he can't wait to sort of get on side with the fans and play in front of them and play for Spurs at the Spurs Stadium rather than it being Chelsea. So it's just one of those things. I think those that are a bit annoyed because it's not some world-class striker like an Ivan Toney or someone that we're signing for 80 million, it's a loan. I think we kind of just have to draw a line under it, trust that Ange wanted this man and believe that he can get the best out of him in the second half of the season, because there's still so much to play for in the last sort of 5-6 months of the season. So, you know, we're on a good run. We're close to the top of the table. We've got a huge FA Cup game coming up. We need this positive energy around the club, and we need to press forward and get behind him, because for me, it seems like Werner is quite a confidence player, similar to the likes of Richarlison. So if you get on his back early doors, you know, it's probably only going to go one way. So yeah, let's get behind him and hope that he scores plenty of goals in a Spurs shirt.
Amen. Mitch, look, I think we needed that rallying cry. Not because there's any doubt in the player, but I feel at the moment, the way the market is, and I've got to say, this is why it's really, really hard to say the way the mood changes does affect when Spurs do bring players in and do business early. Now, Chris, come over to you. It'll be the first time we're asking you about this signing. I think he's a player that ultimately will be one that I've said it on Sky. Look, for me, it's low risk with real potential high reward in terms of what the guy could bring to Spurs in a short period where there's a real incentive for him to do well. For him, it probably will be his last opportunity in English football to really lay a marker and prove to himself that he can play at the very, very highest level. And I may just go far to say, look, it might be the last time he gets to play for a top European football club. And many will laugh at the fact if I call Tottenham a top European football club. Spurs are a club that are regularly, consistently challenging for the top 4, have been involved in the Champions League, which I feel gives me the right to say that. I mean, Chris, your thoughts on the signing? Is it one that you're in favour of?
Like you just said, it's pretty safe. It's a safe signing to me. I personally, from what I saw from him at Chelsea, I wasn't particularly that impressed. But that's just me, maybe because I'm a Tottenham fan. I don't know, but I didn't seem that impressed. But I spoke to a few of my family relatives who are sadly diehard Chelsea fans, season ticket holders, and I asked their opinion about this. Yeah, sadly,
They do exist. They're not all plastics. They do exist.
I'm sorry. And they actually were really, really impressed with him. Like, they were actually generally upset when he actually left. The reason for that is because they thought he was a real hardworking player. So to me, when I heard that, I thought, do you know what? That's obviously like what Ange wants to see then in a player, if he's up for something like that. I've got some stats here. Don't know if that's a bit silly for me to say it like, but 89 appearances. He had 21 assists. This is at Chelsea, by the way, and 23 goals. I think this is for all league, for all competitions. It's not the best, but it's not bad to me. It's exactly what Mitch said, though. It's all about, if Ange personally wants him, he clearly sees something in him that he can maybe improve, that he can, turn around for this player. So, and the fact that he personally reached out to him kind of says a lot. So this is where the comments all come in tonight. So yeah, I feel like this is good. This could be something that we need to have our faith in with Ange. If he personally reached out to him, then I feel like he can bring something maybe that, like we guys can't see. It's like we've almost got to leave it to the professionals at this point, So I'm happy to see him. I'm happy to see all the negative comments, and then hopefully he will completely change everybody's mind. Like a lot of our players have done recently. Let's be, be honest. Like, had so much negativity on Emerson Royale, and look how much he's changed, and everyone now loves him. He can do exactly the same. And like you said, this will probably be his last time in the Premier League. Show us what you've got. Let's see what you can do for us. So I'm here for it. So it's just impress us. Let's see what you've got.
Yeah, spot on, Chris. I think, again, when you do consider the fact that in the summer, many may have been, to some degree, maybe potentially concerned, not by all the players that we brought in, but when you consider the fact, again, Vicario was seen as many as a cheap option, a backup option, just how well he's done under Ange. And when you consider the way Maddison hit the ground running, Mickey van der Ven, I think there's genuine, real, belief that if Ange wants the player, then we have to back Ange and ultimately give him the players he wants. And I will refer to that point again. It's an early period that Spurs have done business in. There's not many Premier League clubs that have made their moves in this market, which I think, again, hopefully tells you the intentions of what Spurs are trying to do. I will just say again for our listeners on audio that the announcement, of course, of Timo Werner coming in does come at a time where there is real panic over where Dragusin is going in terms of a transfer, which again is why, for the time of this recording, there is a slight apprehension about generally the way the market is going for Tottenham and the way maybe moves are being played out so publicly. But it is January. Anything can happen. For our listeners on audio, I think you're lucky to not be seeing Pat's face right now because he looks really, really concerned about what's going on. And I am going to bring Pat in just a second. But before I do, I am just going to read you the club statement that Spurs did put out on the back of Werner signing for the football club. The club stated, "We are delighted to announce the signing of Timo Werner on loan from RB Leipzig, subject to international clearance. He will join the club, of course, on loan until the end of the season. He will wear the number 16 shirt. He began his early career with TSV Steinhadfield before joining Stuttgart's youth team, progressing through the ranks to make his senior debut in August 2013 in a Europa League qualifying fixture where he became the youngest player in the club's history. During his time at Stuttgart, Timo made 103 senior appearances for the German outfit, scoring 14 goals and remaining the club's youngest ever goal scorer after netting his first professional goal in a Bundesliga fixture in September 2013. He's a versatile attacker. He joined RB Leipzig ahead of the 16-17 season, the club's debut season in the top flight of German football. An impressive campaign saw him score 21 goals in 32 games in all comps, helping the team to a second-place finish and qualification for the UEFA Champions League. Since arriving at RB Leipzig, Timo finished as the club's top league goal scorer in 4 consecutive seasons. In November 2019, he made Bundesliga history when he registered a hat-trick of goals and assists in the Die Rotten Bullens' 8-0 victory over Mainz. During a prolific 1920 campaign, he scored 34 goals in 45 games, and he earned a personal recognition for his incredible form, claiming the Bundesliga Player of the Month award for November 19 and December 19 too, and a place in the Bundesliga team of the season. In July 2020, Timo signed for Chelsea and made his Premier League debut in September 2020 against Brighton and scoring in the first goal for the Blues in the same month. He made a total of 89 appearances for Chelsea, scoring 23 goals and helping the team claim the 2021 Champions League, the UEFA Super Cup in August 2021, and the FIFA Club World Cup in February 2022. He then subsequently returned back to Leipzig in August 2022 and claimed the 2023 German Cup and the German Super Cup in August of 2023. Across 2 spells with the Bundesliga side, he made 213 appearances in all comps, scoring 113 times. On the international stage, he has represented his country in numerous age groups and earned his first senior call-up in March 2017, making his debut the same month. He played a key role in Germany's Confederations Cup success, assisting a winning goal in the final and finishing as the club's joint top goal scorer. He's also featured for Germany in the 2018 World Cup in Russia, UEFA Euro 2020. He's earned 57 caps for his country, scoring 24 goals to date. And you know what, Pat, what really kind of to me shines or kind of really stands out when I read that club statement is the guy comes with a real huge amount of experience. He does know where the back of the net is. I know there's a genuine concern that maybe the last couple of years he's not been at his absolute peak. But Pat, what do you take away from the stats that are out there about him, his experience both in Europe, winning trophies? Do you feel that can really give a galvanise to the dressing room that we're not bringing in a youth player here, we're bringing in someone that has been there, done it and won it, and that could really have a positive impact on the dressing room?
Yeah, I mean, like, he comes in with a decent pedigree. Well, not decent, a very good pedigree. And like I said in my tweet, and like I said on the last show that I was on, he's a lot better than the options that we've got on the bench. So when you actually come in, when he comes in, he's bolstering the squad and he's adding to the depth and the quality straight away. The fact that Son's away for possibly a month and you're getting a player of Timo's caliber, it's a good sign for Spurs. It's a smart signing. It's one that we wrapped up very quickly. Obviously, he's ready for Man United. And, you know, the stats are fantastic in terms of what you read, Ricky, but we seem to keep missing out the assists because obviously a forward player is about goals and assists and what they contribute to the front line. And at Leipzig, like you said, 213 appearances, 113 goals, 47 assists. So that's 160 GAs in our 213 games, which is 0.75 goals or assists a game. So that's really good numbers. At Stuttgart, obviously, that's where he started his career. So you've got to remember he's young, coming into the league and all of that, coming into his own. 103 appearances, 14 goals, 11 assists. So 25 goals and assists in 103 games. Not fantastic, but like I said, he started really young. And that's where he kind of made his name. But that's 0.24 goals or assists a game. And at Chelsea, even though he wasn't great in certain times, but he was a lot better than what some of the people have made him out to be. His numbers are actually fairly decent. 89 appearances across all competitions, 23 goals, 21 assists. So that's 44 goals and assists in 89 games, which is 0.49 goals or assists a game. So he contributed at a decent level. And like I said, if he can bring that into the Spurs team, has a point to prove. We are screaming out for end product at the moment. Bryan Gil, I like him as a player. The Lees, I like them. Dane Scarlett, again, really good kid. And I think he's going to have a good future with us. But right now, as it stands, these guys aren't contributing with goals or assists. And obviously, Timo Werner comes in, hit the ground running. He's 27, he's experienced. We need experience. We need someone that knows where the back of the net is. He's direct, he's pacey. The way we play, he's going to suit it. So I think it's a really good signing. I think it's a smart signing. And I am actually excited to see what he brings and what he can offer. He's coming in with a chip on his shoulder, like I said. He wants to play for us. The fact that he even said, I'm coming here, I love the stadium, I want to win trophies with Tottenham. He's saying all the right things. So let's see how it goes, man. And even for Germany, annoyingly, I couldn't find his assists. But like you said, 57 games, 24 goals at international level, 0.42 goals a game. These are good numbers, man. Good numbers. So, you know, some of the misses are comical, don't get me wrong. But like I said the other day, the finishing at speed, both feet, all different angles from all across the board. And he's a lot more, I wouldn't say he's a creative player, but he does know how to link up play and obviously, you know, pass the ball to people in better positions. So it's a good signing. And it's something that I think we should get behind. You know, let's take each signing for what it is. The other thing that we're going to get into, I'm not going to let that cloud what I think is a good and smart buy. We've got this done early. It's what, the 9th of January. We've already got a signing in. let's take that one for what it is, case by case basis. I think it's really good business, smart deal. And even speaking to rival fans, they're saying, you know what, if he comes in and does what we think he can do, it's a brilliant signing for Spurs. So, you know, it's not much risk in it. At the end of the day, if he's not great, then he doesn't have to play. And obviously we get rid of him. But if he is good, fantastic. And we pick him up for decent money in the summer. So all in all, I think it's a very, very good deal.
Pat, I think many are saying you're selling him to them 100%.
I'm just saying what it is. I haven't really said much. All I've done is read the stats and explained why I do think it's a good deal. And I think once we take off our goggles in terms of the YouTube videos with the bloopers and the fact that he played for Chelsea, and actually look at the player, there's a good player there. And there's a player that wants to prove himself. And just going back to it as well before I finish, this season's not been great, but if you look at his 22-23 season in the Bundesliga, 27 games, 9 goals, 4 assists. So that's a decent return. 13 goals and assists in 27 games. Champions League, 8 games, 2 goals, 1 assist. So in 8 games, you got 3 GA. That's decent as well. And like you said, he helped them win the German Cup last year. And in the cup run, he had a brilliant campaign. 5 games, and he scored 5 goals, 1 assist. So it's actually 6 GA in 5 games. And he helped them win the Super Cup, where they, funny enough, beat Harry Kane's Bayern Munich. And that was in August last year. So the guy comes with pedigree. He's won a lot of trophies. Hopefully he can bring that winning mentality to Tottenham. Comes with a chip on his shoulder. Let's go, man. Let's see what he can do.
Amen. Listen, Pat, many in advocate support of what you've said. Even if it's not you trying to sell him to us, I think many are getting excited by the fact of just what is the potential of this signing that is coming through the door.
He comes with good potential, Ricky. He does. Like, if you take, like I said, he comes with good potential, knows where the back of the net is, and I think he'll do really well with the players that we've got. I think it's an astute signing. I can't lie. I think it's really, when I first heard the news, I laughed and I sniggered at it, and I was like, what the hell? But when I started to think about it and actually really break it down, I think it's a brilliant signing, man.
Yeah. Well, listen, Mitch, to summarise and look to close it on Timo Werner, because there's so much to discuss during this show. Look, this is the earliest Spurs have signed a player in January since Bongali Kamalu arrived on January the 7th, 2011. And that was a good chance. I mean, every other panel been born then. Everyone I speak to seems so young these days. But listen, I
can't lie. I've never heard of that guy. Have you?
I do remember.
He apparently now sells tyres. I've heard.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Listen. I think by the fact he's not that memorable. I mean, listen. Can I just say, hopefully, that's not a bad omen by the fact that was the last guy we signed at this time of the year. And I think it's really worth saying that, you know, Mitch, I am sticking with you. 7 of Spurs' last 9 signings in the winter window have been on deadline day or later, with Ryan Nelson amongst those, with the others on either January the 29th and January the 28th. So, look, Ange's getting what he wants. And, you know, Mitch, to go on that point further, we understand that Postecoglou and Johan Lange led Spurs' pursuit of Timo Werner. Paratici was actually not prominent in this deal. Postecoglou is a big fan of the striker and is confident he can work in his system. I think what's even more important is that, look, the reports on Werner's character were also very positive, which is another important factor for Postecoglou when signing players. He believes that at the level Spurs are operating at, the talent difference between most players is negligible, with character being absolutely crucial. Werner is said to be highly motivated, conscientious, and team-focused, which I think for us, Mitch, is really, really important. And again, a shout out to Charlie Eccleshare earlier today that did say to us, look, he's a really good lad in the dressing room. I know many people laugh at that when somebody says he's a really good lad. He's a really good lad. But you need really good people in dressing rooms. Mitch, does that reinforce the fact of why Spurs have gone for this signing?
Yeah, well, firstly, Ricky, when you were listing off the last player we signed before deadline day and 7 out of the 9, I think we're all forgetting a very important midfielder that signed for us in 2020, who went by the name of Gedson Fernandez, who joined on the 15th of Jan 2020. And we yeah.
Hold on. Let's come on, fam. We're going to be bigging this up, not bringing it down.
The wrong Fernandez. No. At the time, that was the wrong Fernandez. We all wanted Bruno.
It was.
Yeah, only Spurs could sign the wrong Fernandez. You're right, Patty. Only Spurs could do that. There's the one prime out there, and we got the wrong one. Sorry, Mitch.
It was. Oh, so what was your question again, Ricky? Sorry, I was caught up.
Well, it's more about the fact that what we're hearing from reports, it's a signing that's been driven from Ange. That ultimately, it's one that we should hopefully will reinforce the fact of it's who the manager wants, right? And I think we've all said in the past, given we've seen club signings come in, Mitch, with no disrespect, the likes of Jed Spence and Arnold Danjuma, the fact of the matter is that ultimately it's important that we are bringing players in. It's who the manager wants. And also this deal feels very much like it is who the manager wants.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned before, you have to prioritise what the manager wants. Look, we've gone through a cycle in the last sort of 5 or 6 years where we've brought managers in and we've probably signed them up knowing that they're not going to be here long term. Whereas I think that's quite different with Ange, and the idea is to get a long-term project going with him, keep him here for a long time, sort of restructure that old Pochettino era of giving him time, giving him the resources, and most importantly, giving him the players he wants. You know, I feel like Ange is probably the type of person behind the scenes who is quite adamant and quite clear with what he wants. And I'm sure he would have made, you know, Daniel Levy and Lange and Paratici aware of the players on his lists. And if Timo Werner's at the top of that list, then, you know, we have to go with it, don't we? I know a lot of people wanted Jota, who is at Celtic with, but clearly there's been talks behind the scenes, and you have to back the manager. I think, you know, we could bring someone in from League One and he'd chuck him straight into the team, and I'd still sit here and say, look, well, Ange has clearly seen something special in him, hasn't he? So, you know, like I said earlier, Timo Werner has the capability and he has the talent. We all saw it in his first spell in Leipzig. Yes, he wasn't great for Chelsea, but you've also got to remember that he was playing under Frank Lampard, and then for a bit Thomas Tuchel. You know, it's not this style of football that Timo Werner wanted to play. And he said it in his interview that Spurs released a couple of hours ago now. Said, you know, after speaking to the manager who outlined his sort of philosophy and the way that he wants to play and the way that Spurs play, it feels like the style that I want to play, and that is aggressive, on the front foot football. He's a player that really loves to run in behind the spaces. He'll press really well. He's selfless. He really likes to work for the team. And I just feel like that's the type of character we need. We need somebody to carry on feeding players sort of in. And when he's on it, he can put the ball in the back of a net. I know it's not always been great for him, but at the end of the day, he's a top-class striker when he wants to be. And you've got to believe and you've got to sort of manifest that Ange is going to be able to find the best version of him. I think it's as simple as that, really. It's just, you just have to believe it and hope that it happens.
Yeah, it's not a man on that point. And just before I do come on to what the man has said on Spurs, we understand that he was really tempted by the possibility of working in an Ange Postecoglou system. He believes it's the perfect footballing idea for him to perform. And look, Ange has been a big advocate of the signing. It is also worth me mentioning that Manchester United were apparently interested in the German international. However, the prospect of playing under Ange Postecoglou and playing for Tottenham was to him a much more exciting one, which, tell you what, the Ange pull is there. And, you know, whether people like to admit it or not, you know, we've got somebody here in this manager that really, really is convincing players that this is the place they want to be. James Maddison, another shining example of that. And said to him, of course, in the summer, look, whether you come to Tottenham or not, you're going to see a hugely different Spurs. And that really, I think, as we've seen, lighted the energy, lighted the buzz inside James Maddison. So, look, that's obviously a clear indication of that. Timo Werner said on joining Spurs, first of all, I'm very, very happy to be at the club. In my opinion, I've joined a very, very big football club. We have often played against each other already. It doesn't matter if I was playing for Chelsea or Leipzig. Spurs were always in games, big, big games. And I'm now happy to be part of the team and the club. And I'm really looking forward to it. A lot of things attracted me here. First of all, the talk with the manager, I thought it was really good. He gave me straight away the feeling that I need to join this club. What I want to feel when you talk to a manager, and also the tactics and the style, is how he made me feel. He wants me to play. He lets the team play how it should. For me, I thought straight away, that fits me perfectly. Then onto the stadium, to play there every week is something so special. And also the team. I think we have some very, very good players. All of them are very interesting to me. I hope that I can be given the best player. I hope that I can be the best player I can be here. The people who follow me a little bit in the Premier League know that I can bring my speed, but that I can also be a threat for the opponent. So that's what I want to bring to this team. And off the pitch, I think I can be a funny guy, and I hope that I can arrive well into the team and that they're happy with me and my personality. 1.5 years ago, I left England. I watched the Premier League, not too much to follow every single club, but Tottenham was always a club that I watched. When I joined my own club, I said I want to be a winner and I want to win titles at the end. And in the end, we won the Champions League. So I think it shouldn't be too bad to say that I've also come here to win titles and to win something. Also, this was part of when I spoke to the manager, that it's important for him and also for me that I can play in every position up front. It's always good when you have some players that can play in a multitude of positions. I think it makes it even harder to defend for the other team if they never know who is coming from this position. So I think that's one of my strengths, to be flexible up front and to play every position. That is a thing where I can also help the team. They were always very tight matches against Spurs, especially in the Champions League when I played my first game here. I think it was my first game in England when Leipzig played in the new stadium. Straight away, I absolutely loved it. It's a really special place to play, to score there. And now that this is my stadium, this is my home, something is really special. And I hope to play there as I did when the other teams I featured and faced were there as well. It should be even more special to score for Spurs as the home team. And to have the whole crowd behind you when you score is even better. I'm really looking forward to these games. Really great words, I've got to say, from Timo Werner. And just a shout out to our friends over at Spurs Song Sheets that I know are building up for the game on Sunday. It is Werner on the dance floor. What we are going to do, we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. Taking into that break, you're going to hear directly from Spurs' first signing of the January window, Timo Werner. When we come back, it's time to talk Dragusin. Right. Thank you so much, as always, for all your support for the show. We've got over about 1,300 of you watching us live. Again, really appreciate the support for Last Word on Spurs. It is a busy, busy, busy month here. So again, I want to say absolutely credit to you wonderful, lovely human beings that listen, that interact, that come and watch and listen to every single Last Word on Spurs shows. We're joined by what I consider to be, look, real top-tier talent of pool of guests here. Mitch Fretton back on Last Word on Spurs. Patrick Tyrant, Chatty Patty, back, and Christina Zandes on this edition of the show. Right, now look, here we go. It's the chat that many of us were concerned to have, but it is the chat we've got to have. We are going to turn our attention to where Spurs are in the battle for centre-back Radu Dragusin. Mitch, I'm going to open up with you. Now, look, this move has, fair to say, over this last week, changed from pillar to post. It's been swaying to Spurs. It's been now obviously reported there's interest from Bayern Munich. As we record here, and I must obviously, of course, time check this, we are recording on the 9th of January, 20 to 10 in the evening here. And as we understand it, Radu Dragusin has to decide his future in the next few hours. Genoa have accepted 2 bids, one from Bayern, one from Spurs. Those bids consist of the fact of a 25 million plus 5 million offer from Tottenham, and Bayern's is a bit more than a 30 million fee. Mitch, where are you on this battle for Radu Dragusin? How important is it that it's him or somebody else in terms of defender Tottenham bring in by that Manchester United game? And I will remind you all, has to be registered by 12 p.m. lunchtime on Friday.
Yeah, it's huge, to be honest, Ricky. I think, look, we're getting to a stage now, Spurs, where we're finally starting to get our players back. Naturally, Mickey was back in the squad against Burnley, and you'd imagine that you'd hope that he'd possibly go into a starting lineup against Man United, but whether he can play a full 90 or not is a completely different question. So, Ben Davies tweaked his hamstring against Burnley. Naturally, Romero is still out, ? And Eric Dyer had also reportedly picked up an injury as well. So, you're looking at the only fully fit, ready to go for 90 minutes centre-back isn't even a centre-back in Emerson Royale. And Andrew was so on it before the transfer window had even opened about how much he wanted to get a centre-back in. He said it plain and simple. Yeah, we need another centre-half because we're struggling in that area, and we are. And I think where the frustration comes for most of us is that, yes, I know that it's complex, and I know that it's not just as easy as walking up to a table saying, here you go, we'll offer this for this player, and that's the deal done. But we are now 9 days into the transfer window, and it just feels like this deal really could have been wrapped up 2 or 3 days ago. Haggling over the sake of €5 million. I'm sorry, for a club like Spurs, and I know in real terms, and for us, 5 million is a lot of money, but for a superpower like Spurs, for a global football club, it shouldn't really be a factor. If you want your man, just pay the money for it and get the deal over the line. We've waited. We've tried to drag it out. We've relied on the player wanting to come to Spurs. The fact that he'd already agreed personal terms. He'd said he'd want to come play in the Premier League. All of a sudden, you get a club like Bayern, who have, of course, huge pull as well. At the last hour, they put a bid straight on the table, more than what we've offered. Genoa accepted that instantly. And now all of a sudden, we're in a situation where we're sitting and waiting and the power's back in the players' hands. We're in a situation where we could be waiting another 24, 48 hours for him to make his mind. And at that point, it's too late. He won't be registered by Friday. And if he does then decide to go to Bayern, there's not going to be enough time to pull the trigger on a second target. I mean, Jamie's right, to be honest, with his comment. I won't read it out, but he's right. But it's just annoying, and we've come to expect this with negotiations that Daniel Levy's involved in. And I mean, I recorded a video myself on this guy a week ago now, thinking that the deal was about to be done, and here we are 7 days later, sort of sat here going, well, what's going on? And yes, a decision might be made within the next 24 hours, but that's not to say that the decision's going to go in our favour. I guess it depends. Has he spoken to the manager? What are his ambitions? How badly does he want to play in the Premier League? Where does he think he's going to get more game time? And who does he feel he's going to be more successful at? So I think I share everyone's frustration. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that it's just completely unnecessary. And in this scenario, I can really understand and see why a lot of people are angry about this.
You know what? I don't always throw my 2 pennies worth in, but I am going to on this deal. Look, for me, the ultimate frustration is that we know we've needed a centre-back since the closing of the previous transfer window, right? I mean, we decided to allow Davinson Sanchez to leave after the English window had closed. So in my real thought process for me, Spurs are arguably maybe not even 1, but maybe 2 centre-backs down. And we've now subsequently allowed Ashley Phillips to go out on loan. We know Eric Dyer wants to leave the football club, which again, I've got no problem with Eric Dyer. Look, again, I wish him all the best. And I think that's going to be right for him. And we'll come on to Eric Dyer a bit later on. But it's not good when you've got players around that don't want to be at the football club. And there are potentially other teams that are interested in those players. So this is where I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated the fact that if Spurs have spent a lot of time on a player that ultimately they weren't 100% sure on wants to be here, that's a big concern to me. Because if the player has been stalling purposely, waiting for Bayern Munich to come into the picture, that does severely worry me. But all the reports coming out seem to indicate that the player had already agreed personal terms with Tottenham in advance, which to me, I'll be honest with you, if that is the case, I don't understand then what the issue is if there has been bids from other subsequent clubs, because ultimately he's wanted to play for Tottenham. He's agreed with Tottenham. If now you're deciding you want to go to Bayern Munich, then I don't really want a player like that anywhere near the football club. I think we've been very, very clear so far under Ange that you've got to be all in when you come to this football club. And what does aggravate me and annoy me is that if players are coming to Tottenham to play just for Champions League football or any type of European football, whilst 100% that's an ambition of the football club, I want players that want to come here to play for Tottenham Hotspur, not just come and play here for European football. So the hard thing is we're not in the negotiations, and it's very hard to distinguish ultimately where the truth does lie. But the fact of the matter is, I'll be honest with you, with no disrespect, his agent has not stopped waffling and waffling and waffling since the day this window has opened, which is not a good thing in general. And I'll be honest, I'm absolutely sick of the way in which this is being publicly played out because it doesn't help anybody. We all know we need a centre-back. We've known this since I said at the end of the summer window. And here we are. We're 9 days into it. We've got Manchester United to come on Sunday. We need someone to partner Mickey van der Ven. For me, this is screaming out to be another Bastoni deal where we just don't need the aggravation. If he wants to come, fantastic. If he doesn't want to come, Spurs move on and go and bring somebody in that does want to come. I know Pat is biting to come back in, but I'm going to go Chris first and then bring Pat in. Chris, where do you stand for you in the battle for Dragusin? And are we being played slightly here by the agent? Look, everyone knows I'm the first one. And believe it or not, I am the first one to criticise Daniel Levy when we're in a situation where he could have done more. But if he's already agreed personal terms with Tottenham and the prices are changing, for me, a lot of this to me points towards the agent. I don't know what you think, Chris.
I absolutely, totally 100% agree with you on this one. Can I just say before we start off, is his agent the same? Is it Vicario's agent as well?
No, I don't believe it's Vicario's agent. It's a separate agent.
Okay,
yeah, that's
okay. Because I read somewhere that they're actually the same one. So okay, forget about that then. So yeah, it's, to me, this is weird because I was reading a lot about that. He was saying that he wanted to come to us, and yeah, he agreed on personal terms or whatever. So to me, that seems settled. And then all of a sudden, this news about Bayern have now, come in and made another agreement or something. It's just like, are we to really blame Tottenham for this, or do we really blame it on Bayern Munich? I don't know. The agency, to me, it just seems really, really bizarre. So obviously, if this is the case, then he's got to have a choice. What do you want, London or Munich, Premier League or Champions League? I don't know. It's Ange or fraud. It's completely up to you. But it's exactly like you said. I don't want a player that is going to be, just putting on a half their performance. I want someone that generally wants to play for this club, because what we're doing right now is a build-up at the end of the day, and this is just the start. And we need to have players that are truly dedicated and want to see something happen and help this club build up on it. So if that is the case, though, then we need to jog on from this, and we need to be quick and look
fast,
elsewhere.
Spot on.
ASAP. It's got, I know this has been early and it's a good start, but this has been going on for so long. We've been so desperate for centre backs, and yes, it's not even one but two. So this needs to be done. So it's just so important. I don't understand, how this couldn't happen. Like, it's just so typical Tottenham. This is like when it comes to transfer window. So I completely agree with you. I know a lot of people on here know about my opinion on Levy, but I don't actually personally point the finger at him on this one. I just feel like this is at the other end. I feel like they're mucking about with us almost. So I completely agree with you of what you said, Ricky. But yeah, if anyone is to come to us, I like what Werner said. It was absolutely lovely to hear that whole statement, what he said about, that's what we want to hear. So if there's other players that want to do that, come to us, because this is it. This is the build-up. We want to be building this team. We want to be able to be lifting trophies eventually. This is it. So if you want to go and get, your other trophies in another country, whatever, that's where you go. But don't waste our bloody time. Just let us get on with it, So it's annoying to see this, but I don't feel like we can personally start to attack, Tottenham on this. I feel like we've actually gone ahead with this correctly, and we've done it early as well. But it frustrates me when I've been reading, like you said, about the agency. Don't waste our time, because this is so crucial to us at the moment. So yeah, especially now with United coming in, let's hopefully we'll be able to get an answer very soon. So
Pat, I want to bring Chris, Pat, I want to bring you in. Can I just say on this point, Pat, and please come in after this. The only thing I want to say is, look, I'm not here suggesting that Spurs are not in the wrong and haven't done what they should have done and got the fee agreed early on. But there's been a clear, what it appears, agreement in place with the player for what appears to be at least 3 or 4 days. And I know many are frustrated and angry by the fact that it appears the fact that Spurs have delayed in getting a deal done with Genoa. I think what I must importantly stress here, Pat, before you come in, is that Genoa are under no real obligation or no real pressure or urgency to sell this player. Spurs are the ones that need this deal done early by the fact they're playing Manchester United on Sunday. Genoa could not care less that Spurs have got a game on Sunday and need a defender. And that's why I'm in this approach for me, that the agent has not stopped waffling since the opening of the window. We've had an agreement with the player. We've now had Bayern coming in where we're now understanding the player's head slightly turning. And that's why I am the way I am. Believe me, if there's an opportunity and Daniel Levy's in the wrong, I have come in here on many, many occasions and said, Spurs are in the wrong. They should have moved quicker. I'm angry Spurs have not moved quicker already for a defender. I've made it clear we should have had at least 2 in since the end of the summer. believe me, I'm angry. Pat, come in for me. What do you feel we are and where we are with this deal?
Yeah, I'm a bit confused why a lot of you guys are trying to take the angle that it's the player and the agent's fault. I don't really buy that notion. I think it's our fault, personally. Like, this is a deal we should have had wrapped up as soon as the window is open. Like Genoa set their price at 25 million, whatever it is, whatever the price was, it's been set. We've haggled for 9 days, and essentially we've met that price with our £5 million add-ons. Why didn't we just, if we were that serious and we needed the centre back and we needed him for Man United away on Sunday, it's now essentially Thursday by the time everyone watches this and watches it back. That means we've got 1 day and a half to register this player and get him in. I don't understand how we're now blaming the player and blaming the agent. We've twiddled our thumbs and sat on it for so long, we've allowed other clubs to come in. If we were that serious, we'd have put the cash down. You know, obviously, yes, you're going to have to agree certain terms and payment structures and all of that. But if we were serious, we'd have put the money down, got him in, and we wouldn't have allowed none of this to happen. The common denominator, they always say our typical Tottenham is Spursy. The common denominator is Daniel Levy here. This is why all these deals always go wrong, because he's always overseeing things, micromanaging deals, even though no matter who we get in, it's the same crap year in and year out. We needed a centre-back yesterday. We needed a centre-back as soon as the window closed. Why is it 9 days later we still haven't got one? I can't understand how we're now blaming the player. At the end of the day, if we're taking ages and another bigger club comes in, what do you expect the player to do, realistically? And yes, he wanted to come to Tottenham. He's made it clear. He's agreed personal terms. But why is it taking so long? If I was a player and it took my club or my workplace so long to pull the trigger, even though we've had all these conversations, I naturally would also think, maybe they're not that serious. Maybe they're, and obviously as a player, you got to protect yourself and look at other options. So of course, yeah, you always want someone that wants to come here, but why have we taken so long to get a deal done when we needed a centre-back? So I don't really buy the notion that it's the player and the agent. It's us fucking around as per usual.
And, you know what, Pat? Sorry, you finish. Go on.
Yeah, no, go on, because I'm a bit frustrated that a lot of us are now getting angry at the player. Like, it's our fault.
But I'll tell you why I'm getting slightly frustrated. And again, I must say a lot of what, unfortunately, we're talking about here is based on assumption. We are not in the negotiations. Unfortunately, we have no real link or intel in terms of what is going on at the negotiation table. But I'll tell you why, Pat, I am in the way I am in terms of my stance. Look, I'm always honest. For me, I'll always tell it as it is. When Daniel Levy is wrong, I'll always say Daniel Levy is wrong. I've got no agenda here. As I've said for the last 20 years of Enoch, that for me, we go into every window and we come out of every window. And for me, we don't necessarily have always strengthened coming out of a window. I always feel 1 or 2 players short. So I've got absolutely no problem at all when the ball are wrong to say the ball are wrong. Where my frustration is for me here is that Genoa are the ones that are holding the cards here. They know for sure, and they know for certain that Spurs urgently need the player. Therefore, they can dictate, they can put whatever price they want to put, and they can change that. Now, I'm not saying Spurs are not rightly criticised for not getting the fee done earlier, but we're not privy to how those negotiations have been going or how they've been working out. The fact of the matter is, it appears that we've had an agreement in place with the player for a number of days. Now, if your heart is absolutely set on moving to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, you're not interested. You are not interested in any other bid or any other club because your heart is set on Tottenham. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute Tottenham are bigger or better than Bayern Munich. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But the fact of the matter is that if your head is getting turned now, and ultimately he could be a Spurs player come Sunday when we've got Manchester United, I want a player that's going to give absolutely everything for the football club. And if this guy is not 100% sold on Spurs, I don't want him here. I really don't want him here. And I'll be honest with you that I have seen too many players come to this football club, bought for a high amount of money, and not give us everything. I've seen lots of Tungi and Dombele, with no disrespect, come through the door, pay a high fee, pay what is believed to be the asking price, and not give us what we want. I'm not just using him as a prime example. There's others as well.
Ricky, all of that I 100% agree with. But at the end of the day, if we didn't match their price, which wasn't a crazy price, by the way, it's not like they asked for 35, 40 million. It was 25 million, which is a snip for the potential and the player that he is. If we didn't match it, all of the other stuff is kind of irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, how long is it going to take for us to match it? Are we that serious? And we've allowed other clubs to circle. The whole Napoli fiasco, again, is because we took too long. And now it's Bayern Munich, who obviously that's a different shock completely compared to Napoli. They've got the pull, they've got the allure, the sexy, the sex appeal, and we've kind of, in my opinion, and I know people in the comments, a lot agree on what I'm saying. Some are saying that, we're not privy to negotiations and what goes on. Of course not, but we all see the same information. We're going off what has been said. And from what we've seen, Spurs took so long to actually hit what they were asking for. And that's why we've allowed these other guys to come in. So, you never know. He could end up coming to Tottenham. But if he doesn't, yeah, fair play. He's not the player for us. But I do think that we have kind of messed this one up as per. We fumbled the bag, shot ourselves in the foot, whatever analogy you want to use. It's kind of the same old. I'm bored of it. I thought Daniel Levy was stepping away. I thought he was allowing footballing people to make footballing decisions. But yet again, this guy just doesn't know how to just leave the stuff to the experts and get on with it.
Can I ask you, Pat, why do you, and again, before people jump on it here, why do you think it's Daniel Levy? What makes you think it's Daniel Levy railroading these negotiations?
Because it's the same pattern. It's the same pattern. And like I said, if things keep happening, you have to look at what's the common denominator. It's almost like if I go to, if I'm employed and every single job I'm at, I end up getting fired or got rid of before my probation. Yes, of course, there's always going to be circumstances. But at some point, I'm going to have to take a look in the mirror and say, what is the common denominator? It's me. All these different circumstances, all these different clubs. But yet we seem to always have the same issue. Jack Grealish, this guy, that guy. It seems to always happen to us. And of course, yeah, other clubs sometimes miss out on their targets, but it always seems to happen to Tottenham. So
all I would say, Pat, for me is, and again, I'll bring Mitch into this, I just feel there has been a change in the negotiations at Tottenham really since the summer, and that it is Johan Langer, Scott Munn, as a principal of a team with Paratici working in the background, that ultimately now are leading negotiations on players. And I don't think Daniel is as influential as many think he is. I'm not saying, Pat, you're wrong. He may very well take in charge of this deal. But I think we have seen, for me, a real change in attack at Spurs since the summer. And ultimately, we have brought players in my opinion, from the summer that have been the right profiles for the football club. And I think there has to be some degree of element of trust here based on what we've seen in the summer until now. Now, again, look, this is why, for me, I am 100% in my opinion that I don't think it's all on the ball on this one. But again, I have to say for me personally that I don't know. A lot of his assumption right now. And Pat, you may very well be right. There's no doubt about it that what I can't get away from the fact here, bringing you in, Mitch, we've known since the end of the summer, Tottenham have needed a centre-back. So for me, being honest, look, 9 days into a window, for me, it's unacceptable that the first player through the door is not a defender when all of our big games are coming at the very start of January, and we need someone through the door for Manchester United. And I will say it now, it is totally and utterly unacceptable that by the United game, if Spurs have not got another centre-back in, that is the right profile for the club, when clearly that is what Ange identified. That is what we've all been talking about since the closure of the summer window. And it's ultimately the key position that Spurs need to fill. Where do you feel, Mitch, that's at on that point? Do you feel it is a failure if Spurs have not got a defender through the door by Manchester United's game?
Yeah, well, we're leaving ourselves hanging, really, aren't we? We're leaving ourselves to dry. It's not acceptable considering the points that you mentioned there. The fact that we've needed a centre back for longer than just a few weeks, been months and months, and you could argue years. You can bring in Mickey van der Ven, but I think we all said after the transfer window closed in the summer, if he gets injured, then we're just back to square one. And that's exactly what we've been having to deal with. Now, we're lucky because we've been able to get through that period. And at the end of the day, we're still only, 6 points off top of the table, which is phenomenal, by the way, considering the amount of injuries that we had. Why don't we, as a club, have this mentality and this attitude to go out and push and strengthen? It just seems like we're doing what we need to when we must do it. Why can't we go and be a bit proactive and say, okay, we're 6 points off top of the table here, right? Man City haven't been excellent. Arsenal are crumbling a little bit. Okay, Liverpool look all right, but they do look vulnerable at times as well. Why don't we go out this January and sign a couple of really, really good players early on? We've got Maddison coming back, Van der Ven coming back, Romero coming back soon, Bentancur's back. Why don't we go out, get these players, and then have a real go at it in the second half of the season? it's make or break against City in the FA Cup in a couple of weeks' time, right? We could just as easily go out in that game as we could beat them and go through. So, you know, if the worst does happen and we're knocked out of that, all we've got to play for is the league. And I know that every single Spurs fan will be frustrated if we do end up losing that cup game. But we should be in a position in 2 weeks' time where we're still within touch and distance of that top of the table. So if that's all we have to focus on, why are we not strengthening the team to a point where we can, in the second half of the season, with a fully fit squad, you know, touch wood, go and pressure those top teams and go for it? I just think it's so naive, and we're shooting ourselves in the foot because we've got through the tough bit now. We're getting over the other side of that hill. And we're just, you know, leaving ourselves out to dry. I don't know, Ricky. It frustrates me a lot. And I get maybe Daniel has perhaps stepped back to an extent from these transfers. But I mean, come on. Do you think everyone at the top of that club is really the same as him in the sense of we're haggling over a few million quid? Because I feel like that's been the case for us for years. I'm
not getting away from that. I think, look, no doubt about it, Spurs have their price. And in my opinion, they don't ever budge from that price, which is a big, big problem to answer one of Pat's points earlier, that if the club have not got the ambition to back the manager, and that for me is the crucial thing here, that ultimately it does feel that Dragusin is an Ange Postecoglou target. That's for me who I feel will be let down more than anyone. If this is who Ange wanted, it's who he needed to bring in. But what I also sit favourably, I feel, is that if this is a player that Ange wanted, and then we have noticed that the player has had a slight look over his shoulder and Bayern Munich are interested and he wants to go to Bayern, I'm also fairly confident that Ange would be like, you know what? Not sure I want that kind of player at my football club. I want someone that's going to give me everything. And when you say, I want to join Tottenham, believe us that we're going to get the deal done. The same way we got the Mickey Van de Ven deal done. But I will qualify and back up what Pat has said, that there's been numerous deals in ENIC's tenure where they should have got done and haven't got done. So to bring you back in there, Mitch, look, I don't believe ENIC are the saving grace. I think there's been a number of occasions where they could and should have got deals done over the line. And this might be another classic example where the manager is not getting what he wants. The same as Conte, the same as Mourinho, the same as Nuno. But unfortunately, we're never, ever privy to knowing what goes on at the negotiation table, Mitch. We're just not.
No, you're right. And the most frustrating thing for me is you wake up this morning and you see all the reports everywhere. You know, our friend Plettenberg over in Germany saying Drăgușin signing a contract until 2029. Spurs have finally sent a bid. Genoa have accepted. And then, you know, because we've left it so late, you've got Bayern coming in at the last hour as he's set to probably say yes to us and get the deal finally completed, and then they chuck their bid in, and then all of a sudden you're delaying the deal by a couple of extra days in all likelihood. So I think just that's where the frustration is. We never get the important deals done quickly, and it's not an expensive deal. 30 million euros is not a lot of money for a centre-back that is, what is he, 21 years old, a player that Ange wants, going to be signing on a long-term contract. It just, I don't know, I get it from the logical point, and I get it from the negotiation point, and I get it from a business perspective. But like I was saying a second ago, sometimes you need to put the interests of the team and the manager first before, you know, the financial aspect of it. That's just my personal opinion. I know people will disagree with me on that.
Listen, Mitch, I think it's one of those where, again, it could all very much change. He could still be a Spurs player. I think it's very important I say that. In a transfer window, many different factors and situations happen where players do end up moving. It's resolved. I mean, look, I think it's fair to say, even with the Mickey Van de Ven deal in the summer, I don't think everybody was 110% sure Mickey was going to be a Tottenham player. Those negotiations weren't easy. They were drawn out. Spurs got it over the line. Again, I will back up the fact and qualify what Pat says as well. There's been many occasions where Spurs should have got deals done the line, and they haven't. And we've been honest and said it's not good enough. And I will qualify the point again before we go for our next break, that it is totally unacceptable that Spurs are currently now 9 days into the transfer window and haven't got a centre-back that they've needed since the summer. I can't get away from that. I cannot deny that. It is unacceptable and it isn't good enough, and it's not fair on the manager.
Ricky, quick question, and to all you guys as well, in the comments. The fact that we let Ashley Phillips go, and then now this one looks like it could fumble, doesn't mean that Tottenham already thought they had Dragusin. Because why would you let another centre-back go when we've already got injuries? And this is what I mean when I just think it's negligent and people say, oh, but we don't know. But why would you let another guy go when you haven't secured the actual target? And it's a target that we know was Ange's top target. And now we've essentially got egg on our face. And this is what's worrying and concerning. And I keep seeing the same patterns. And we take one step forward and then we take 2 steps back. And like I said before, the fantastic news is we got Werner in. That's brilliant. I'm really excited about that. But this is really concerning. We go to Man United and we've only got one. Well, we haven't got no fit centre-backs. Mickey van der Ven is coming back, but he's not 100%. And I agree with Mitch, man. This league is wide open this year. Why don't we actually show some ambition and really push? Why are we always leaving it so late? And yeah, it's you know, we feel so good about certain things, but then when things like this happen, it just makes you realize that, yeah, it's still Tottenham. Like, we still seem to have that same mentality. You know, as much as Ange is talking about changing the structure and all of this, ultimately, we're still going through the same crap.
But don't you think, though, that with us starting to do things early, though, don't you feel like that is a bit of a change in that itself? I know it's not much, but that's why I just feel like this is a bit different, this one. The fact that we've got one player already, to me, it's like something has changed. And the thing is, this guy actually could still come to Tottenham. I don't know how you guys feel on that.
Very, very important you say that, Chris. I think that is such a key point here that I don't want to go too far in on the player, like I suggested earlier, because he may very well be a Spurs player. He might not want to consider Bayern Munich, but I think the concerning aspect of it all is, for me, is that the fact that there is a stalling situation there is a number of things, as we've said. It could be the fact that Spurs haven't matched the bid from Genoa, which seems to be obviously the forefront of everybody's mind. And I'm not saying that, you know, anybody's wrong in that. The fact that the player wants to consider Bayern is a big concern to me, like I've said earlier. I think for me now, coming into an Ange Postecoglou team, you've got to be 100% committed that you want to be here. And I think the reality is that where we are now, we're the 9th of January, we need a centre-back coming in, and we haven't got one. And that is where the frustration is. But look, we shall see how it might play out. He may very well still end up being a Spurs player. What we are going to do, we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners and audio. There's a good 14 to 1,500 of you here watching us live again. Thank you so much for all your incredible support for the show. We're joined by Mitch Fretton, we're joined by Patrick Tyrant, and we're joined by Christina Zandes. Look, many Zandes see me emotional. I'm very passionate. You know, again, I think we're all very passionate in our own rights. I think we all are. All of us here have our own individual opinions, individual feelings on the board, on Enoch, on Daniel Levy, on Spurs' business, on Ange Postecoglou, on the players. And that's what makes up, for me, why Last One Spurs is really, really special. We're bringing together, for me, some of the greatest, you know, individuals out there that love this football club, that can come and talk about this football club so eloquently, can respect everybody's opinion and not fight the person, but fight the argument. I think that's what's really, really important, that, you know, there's genuine love here with all of us, and that's what we absolutely love. And again, thank you so much for all the support. And it's great to see, of course, as well, a mixture of opinions, because without that, that is what makes football so beautiful. We can't all think the same thing. We can't all want the same thing. Right, Pat?
Yeah, amen to that. I'm seeing comments a lot supporting me, some calling me negative. One guy called CW said he's switching off on Mr. Negative. I've been waxing lyrical how good Werner is. I've even said, let's separate one from the other. But I do feel frustrated and I want to voice my concerns. And if Dragusin comes in, because obviously, Ricky, like you said, you were saying about how if he doesn't come, you know, then we don't want him here. I agree with that. But also, I do feel that we are partly to blame in the scenario. I don't think it's being negative. I think I'm just trying to, you know, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Some will understand what I'm saying. Some won't. It is what
you know what? It's a puzzle. And the problem with the window, it's a puzzle. It sends you one way, it sends you another way, it sends you in different alleyways. And ultimately, the reality is we aren't, as I said, privy to negotiations. We can't be 100% sure. And unfortunately, it's one that is going to drag on and drag us in. Right. See what I did there? We are going to move on. We are going to move on. Listen, this is top tier. This is what you're tuning in for. It's top tier quality, right? Honestly. Right. Now, in terms of other Spurs news where we're at, we understand Feyenoord have made concrete attempts to sign Bryan Gil from Spurs. We understand Feyenoord hope to be able to convince Gil to join the football club. Now, if Feyenoord come to a deal, no option to buy is expected. I mean, God, this is, you know, we've just bought this guy and we're just sending him out on loan season after season. I mean, he might as well not even be here the way it is, Brian, bless him. I mean, Chris, let's start with you. We need some optimism or need some kind of hope here that we are going to see an understanding as to why this would be a positive. Chris, Bryan Gil, is it time again to move him on?
I feel so sorry for this guy. I really, really do. I actually think he's a good player. I really think he's got a lot of skill on the ball. He seems to be quite, when he is on it, he seems to be quite hard to take the ball off him. But the only thing is, that guy just needs some Weetabix. He needs to strengthen up. That's literally how I feel with Bryan. Bless him. I think he's a great player, and I think there's a lot of potential. I just feel so sorry of him going in and out, because it's just like, to me, when you're a footballer, you need to be dedicated to a certain club or something. You need to have your time instead of going in and out with all these places. So I feel like he's been quite unlucky in this situation. But I mean, if again, it comes down to the manager, and I have every faith and I have so much trust in him. If he doesn't see anything with him, then that's how it's got to go. But I really do feel sorry for him, because I've seen a lot of potential in this guy. It's just such a shame with how he's come in and out. I was hoping to see more of him, and I feel like he deserved more. I feel like he deserved to be on, have some more time at Tottenham. But I guess it's all down to Ange at the end of the day. But yeah, it's just a shame.
I've got to be honest. I mean, for me, he's one of the most frustrating players to watch, because you go on, Bryan. It's just, I don't know. I mean, we've seen missed opportunities. Mitch, coming over to you with Bryan since his time here, and ultimately, I think when you look at Paratici's buy since he's come in, for me, I think he's got about a 75 success hit rate. That's what I'd rate Paratici in terms of the buy so far. This one for me hasn't been a success so far, and every time I look at Gil, no disrespect, when you see Gareth Bale when he came back for that season where he bulked up in the gym, he came back like an absolute monster. I'm not saying that Gil has to go out and, go on the whey protein and go absolutely mental. But the fact of the matter is, Mitch, I'm just not sure if that kind of player is ever going to make it at Spurs. And I think if you haven't got the attributes of the physicality, you could have the right mentality that I'm going to take this game by the scruff of the neck. And I just feel every time I watch him, he does not do enough for me, Mitch, to convince me that he could work in this team as a first-team player. And by the fact, again, it appears Spurs are considering yet another loan for him. I mean, are we just going around in circles here, Mitch, on Bryan Gil?
Yeah, look, I feel like I sort of echo what Chris said. I feel really bad for the bloke, because I actually think he's a really nice guy. And I just want to clarify that although he's probably not at the level that we need, it's not for a want of trying. I think every time he puts the shirt on and every time he steps onto the pitch, he's doing his utmost to try and make an impact in the game and make things happen. And he runs his socks off, bless him. But I agree with that point. I just think that there's a physicality side of things where maybe he's just not up to scratch. I look at players that are built in a similar stature and way to him. I think the obvious example of someone who you could compare perhaps physically to him is Bernardo Silva at City in terms of height and physical build. But Bernardo Silva has such an impact on every single game he plays. He's so direct with his sort of attacking phases and will go past people, and his vision and technique is exceptional. And I just think we don't really see that enough from Bryan Gil. I think his speciality lies in dribbling with the ball, but I don't particularly think that he has the pace or the skill to be able to beat his man on too many occasions. And it's a real shame, because I love players like that. I love, the little technicians in that midfield area trying to pull the strings and make things happen. But he's not up to the standards. And it comes back to that point. How long do you give him before you sort of say, right, okay, we really need to be moving on now. You need to be a bit ruthless. You need to ship him out, admit we've wasted a bit of money on him. To be fair, we need to do that with a fair few players, I think, at this point. But we are going around in circles. Having said that, and I don't want to keep being negative, because there's a lot of positives going on at the moment. And I want to circle around to one player that has had a bit of a similar story to Bryan Gil, and that is Giovanni Lo Celso, who spent a good few years away from the club in different leagues, loan spells, and he's come back, and this season he finally looks like a much better player, and he's having much more of an impact. So there's the possibility that in the next 12 months, maybe he goes away for a 6-month loan this season, comes back. We give him one more chance to really put it in over the summer, build up a bit of bulk and perhaps give him one final shot at the start of next season. And maybe you have a success story there. It's not always instant with players, especially when you're dealing with players in that area and who are built the way that they are. It's not difficult for them to put on masses of weights because their play style is so dependent on how they're built. He's all about having a low center of gravity. He loves to spin and turn and be quick on his feet. So yeah, I like the bloke. I'm willing to give him a little bit more time, but I can completely understand the viewpoint that people perhaps had enough of him and think we should move him on as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, look, Brian, I think there's a general consensus for many that, ultimately, is a loan really worth it? It feels pretty pointless. I mean, Spurs should be pushing for a permanent deal. Look, maybe there'll be an option to buy there, but from Feyenoord's perspective, they're looking at the moment, as we understand, bringing him in on loan, and that no option to buy is expected. In terms of other news at the moment, Eric Dyer's move to Bayern seems to obviously be halted at the moment, given the situation around Tottenham's battle for Dragusin. And I think we won't know any further news on that until we have an update on this centre-back situation. Sergio Reguilon, nothing changing as of yet. No real genuine interest from other football clubs. And as we understand from Fabrizio Romano, who's now reported, Jed Spence, who was expected to be part of that deal for Dragusin, apparently now we understand no players are included as things stands. But I will always stress anything can change during the transfer window. And we're 9 days in, we're only at the start. But I feel out there, look, I think there's a genuine disappointment that we haven't yet got the centre-back in. I think there's genuine hope around, of course, the fact Spurs have gone and signed Timo Werner, who potentially could be a really good signing for the football club. But I think, again, I don't want to guess and estimate and assume how everybody's feeling, but there's more to do. There is more to do. And the final question I'll ask you all on this show, if I can, is what you feel for all of you would be a successful window. So conscious of time, tick off your bingo cards. We'll start with you, Mitch, because I know we're on a tight constraint. Mitch, 9 days in, 1 over the line, 1 in a battle. What for you, Mitch, represents a successful window?
So I definitely the centre back has to be the priority, and it has to be the quickest priority. Look, I wouldn't even be opposed to saying we need to go out and grab 2 centre backs this month, even if it's perhaps a loan deal or a younger centre back that can fill in and play that role, because the Ashley Phillips thing, Ange clearly thinks he's not even slightly ready to be playing for us, hence him going out on loan to Plymouth. So yeah, that position for me, especially, I think you got to try and ship a couple out as well. Eric Dyer, perhaps, if, I don't know, we'll see about the Bayern Munich thing. And if we can get rid of Højbjerg and get a replacement in for him, I think then that with an attacker, a midfielder and a defender would probably summarise a good January for me, because you've got to be realistic in January. You're not going to get every single position filled in that month. It's hard to buy players as it is. So, but that's a minimum for me, because I want to go on a great run in the second half of the season. I want to challenge. I want to see us win lots of games with a full strength squad. And I just think that there is still work that can be done this month to achieve that. Mitch,
thank you so much. A big shout out to Mitch. YouTube channel also on the go here. It's all happening here. A lot of these guys now, they're all doing their own thing. They're all got so much going on. They're still making time for Last Man Spurs. We appreciate them for that. Mitch, where can we find out and see the wonderful work you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, just at Mitch_Fretton, YouTube and Twitter /X, the main 2 platforms. Got a few videos out on Drăgușin and Werner over on the YouTube channel that I'm trying to promote. So go and check it out if you want to. You don't have to, but thank you for having me, Ricky. It's always a pleasure, mate.
Thank you, mate. Always fun and games. I know many will feel at the moment it's not that fun. Although we have got one in. Come on, we have got one in. We've got to be optimistic. We have got one in. Look, Pat's giving us a fist pump. It's not all disappointment. It isn't. The bloke off the fireworks 5 minutes ago for our watching audience here, I will say. Chris, we're going to come to you. We're going to end with Pat. Chris, for you, what do you represents for you a successful window for Tottenham?
Successful or dream? It would be 2 centre-backs for me, but that's not going to happen. It needs, but like Mitch said, centre-back is our #1 priority for sure. And obviously buying players, of course, but I feel like getting rid as well is another important thing that we need to do. Like I've said with Eric Dyer before, I'm not here to hate on him at all. I completely I've loved what he's done for the club, how much he's represented us. but I feel like there's always a time where, you know, a player needs to move on. And I feel like Eric Dyer needs to, you know, he needs a new change, the guy. And I'm whatever he does in the future, I completely, you know, I look forward to, you know, for him. So yeah, it's getting rid as well. So it just, we'll see. This is Tottenham, and it's January.
It is Tottenham. It is Tottenham. It is January. Chris, you say it so eloquently. It is January. It is Tottenham. She looks so disappointed as she says it. We've got one other line here. Look, we do expect more drama because it is Spurs in the window. We'll be with you every step of the way on Last One on Spurs. Chris, thank you so much as always. Love having you on. We'll be driving you mad throughout the month. Let's see if she answers the call. But it is Werner on the dance floor. Chris, starting to get to learn the lyrics?
Oh man, do you know what? I don't know if anyone sees Saltburn, but that's all I've got in my head when that song comes on. But it's great. I do love it. I love it. Spurs song sheets, they've been absolutely brilliant. Shout out to them because they've really been getting like the crowd going. And every time you go to the stadium at the moment, it's literally like a party. It's brilliant. They've really got us all together, and hats off to them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what this guy does, especially at the United game. Hopefully we'll see something. Who knows, guys? Who knows what can happen? Yeah, well, listen, Ange called it a nightclub, and Werner is on the dance floor. Let's say he's on the dance floor, of course, at the weekend. Patty, we're going to close it with you, mate. I think you always say, it's always fun and games everyone here, Pat, right? Never a quiet one, never a dull one. The poor man is drawn into battles quite literally every time he comes on, and he's here fighting them off.
Infighting with Spurs fans. We're all meant to be part of the same family. It's crazy.
Yeah. Can I just, again, I will emphasise the point. Listen, you know, we've all got close relationships off air here. And I love these guys so much, and I value so much of their time when they come on and give their opinion on all things Spurs. I think you have to remember that, you know, these guys come on the show at the goodness of their own heart. They love giving their time up to talk about Tottenham. And again, I will make that point. You know, I think the key on Last Word on Spurs is that, look, we fight the argument, not the person. We all absolutely love working together, working with each other, collaborating with each other. There's genuine love behind the scenes here. You don't get an award-winning show if you haven't got tremendous people that come on and give so much of their time. So I always say thank you so much to such, again, a wonderful panel that come on and give their views. You want honesty, you get honesty. Sometimes you don't always like honesty, and that is the reality that, unfortunately, not everyone is going to agree. But this is what I love about, again, Last One on Spurs. It offers a variety of opinions. Nobody always thinks the same. And if it did, it'd be boring. And nobody can call us happy clapper, right? Because again, I'll make that point. Everyone has different opinions. Pat, come on, time to offend half the other audience now.
Mickey, I'm upset, man. You didn't give me a chance to talk about Bryan Gil, but obviously we'll kind of leave that now because you know, time constraints and stuff like that. But regarding what I
throw him in this, Patty. Throw him in Bryan Gil. Throw him in this last.
Bryan Gil, I really like him. I'm disappointed it hasn't worked out so far. Mitch made a really good point about body shape and stature and physical presence. And you think about someone like Luka Modric, Bernardo Silva, David Silva. These are like fantastic technicians, same slight build, but they made the game work. They made it work for them. In terms of if Spurs do genuinely see a future with him, I feel we need to loan him out to a Premier League team because he needs to play in this league. If he's going to have a future here, he needs to understand and learn this league because it's different. I mean, he's done really well in La Liga in Spain, but it's different. The tempo is different. The game is different and everything like that. If we really are serious about him, he needs to go on loan to a Premier League team so he can actually get to grips with the physicality, the style, the temperament. I see a very technically gifted player, but he doesn't believe in himself. Every time he gets the ball now, his first thing is to pass it backwards. He doesn't want to take his man on. You don't have to be the quickest to take your man on, i.e. Kulusevski, but you have to believe in your ability. And right now, I don't see that. So I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know if so, but it's a disappointment because there is a player in there. But if Ange doesn't see it and we don't see it, then just cut our losses and get rid instead of keep loaning them out, bringing them back. Because all you're doing is just having the same problem 6 months later. You know, we need to actually, you know, your Jed Spencers, your Bryan Gils, these kind of Sergio Reguilon, if we don't really want them here anymore, let's try and just cut our losses and get rid of them. So going into your next question, Ricky, about what I feel is a perfect window, Christina made a fantastic point. It's also about the offload. So someone like Eric Dyer and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, these are guys that we know don't really want to be here. They're not happy with their minutes. They've been talking to other teams. Those guys need to go. I want to see people here that really believe it. I still feel like it may sound crazy that the league is still open, but we can only do as well as we can do if we have everyone that believes and is pushing in the same direction. And right now, I feel the Højbjergs and the Eric Dyers, when they come on, I don't really see that because they're not really part of the plan. So they don't really care what happens because they know they're going to go. So I'd rather get them out, bring in people that really want to be here, will die for the badge. And obviously, we need a top centre-back. As I keep saying, if we're getting rid of Højbjerg, I want a better CDM, a more mobile CDM, someone that's better on the ball, can go forward, is just more suited to Ange's system. And then we've all obviously got the winger in, which is fantastic. And Mitch made a really good point. We probably still need another centre-back, even if they're a youngster, even if there's someone that's not at the level, but just in case, because we're playing fullbacks at centre-back. And bless their hearts, Davies and Emerson are playing week in, week out. They're also going to need a rest at some point. So, God forbid Davies looks like he's injured now. So if another one gets injured, we are absolutely screwed. So we still need a bit.
We do indeed. Listen, I think Jar Wobble, since coming on here, will never be able to say Højbjerg the same after the term Højbjerg has stuck with everybody. Can I ask, guys, it's a final question to you always at the close this one. Dragusin, will it happen? Pat, yes or no? Will Dragusin be a Tottenham player?
Yes, I'm going to go against everything and say that just because of everything that's happened and hopefully the fact that we courted him and wanted him from day dot, it still goes through. So I'm going to say yes.
Okay, fine, Pat. Thank you so much. I'm laughing because he's absolutely gone in tonight hard.
We've messed up, but hopefully he can still see that there's intent there. So yeah,
mate, this is why I absolutely love you. You're an absolute nutter. He really is. Wonderful Patrick Tyrant there. Chatty Patty. God, so much chat. He's going to come to the football club. What do I want to end it? What is that? EastEnders. Chris, will he be a Tottenham player? Dragusin for you?
Yeah, I'm going to go for it. Who does not want to play for Tottenham? I'm gonna say yes. Let's end it on a positive, and yeah. Oh God, it's gonna kill us tomorrow morning, isn't it?
I'm just thinking, Chris, of those Chelsea previews again when everyone's going 4-0, 5-0, 4-0, 5-0, and I'm thinking everyone's asking this Dragusin opinion. I'll be honest, for me, I'm really on the fence 50-50. I really am not sure. Mitch, let's close it with you, my man. Dragusin, will he be a Tottenham Hotspur player?
I'll give us a full house and say yes. I think Ange has been on the phone. He's been in his ear. He's been whispering sweet nothings to him. He's going to be a Spurs player. We'll find out very, very soon.
Let's go. Come
on, let's go. And to Matty Hayes there, bless him in the comments. Let's check if Mickey's got a brother. He's absolutely spot on. Matty, get on the research and go and check if Mickey has got a brother. That's Matty's research for the night. He'll be back with us very, very soon. So with this wonderful esteemed panel, from the wonderful Mitch Fretton, from the brilliant Patrick Tyrant, from the superb Christina Zandes. We have been the last word on Spurs. We're back with you soon. As I keep on saying, guys, look, the January window has just opened. Let's keep on rolling. From us all, please, guys, as always, keep safe, keep well. And as always, come on, you Spurs.